If you're one of my earliest subscribers, you know that there was a decent bit of time where I put out literally nothing. You see, my laptop had lost its shiny metal ass. But what did I do in this period of time? Well, that's what this video is about. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to me explaining every stand I made for a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure themed TTRPG. Now, for this video, we're gonna only be going over the stands that I, as the DM, made. So that means we have 23 stands to go through, and I'll only be explaining any story stuff when it's a plot-significant stand, rather than just a one-off stand user. So, basically just the main villain. Additionally, I will not be going over the player stands, as I myself did not make them. Without further ado, the first stand they encountered is... I'm going to be doing these in the order that they encountered them, all except for the stand of the main villain, which will be at the very end of the video. Mr. Blue Sky, named after the Electric Light Orchestra song of the same name. Honestly, I think I hit it out of the park immediately with this design. Both the design and the ability were really cool, both for my players to fight against, to use as a DM, and just in concept overall. I think this might genuinely be like my third favorite stand out of all of them. What its ability is its body was actually a portal to the actual sky. It could lift you anywhere in the atmosphere, really. So what it would do is it would grab you, lift you into the sky, and then just drop you. But it had the caveat of, it could only appear on ceilings, or on, like, the bottom of things. So its stand user was actually a woman with a parasol that she used to defend herself with by just holding it above herself. Although they did kill her by having it grab onto itself, because its second caveat was that once it grabbed onto something, it would always retreat through the portal, regardless of what it got. So, its own user ended up getting pulled, like, fucking 50 feet in the air. So this one, Flaming Telepaths, named after the Blue Oyster Cult song, was basically like a handheld version of Cream, but what it would do is it would take in flammable materials. They were walking through a forest at the time, so it would take in chunks of trees, and there'd just be, you know, lines of wood missing from trees, and it would spit them back out as flaming projectiles. Now, this was the shortest encounter of the entire campaign, because... And they killed this guy near instantly. Like, it was over so fast. But I planned for revenge later. Very slight blood trigger warning. The next one is a microscopic stand that exists within somebody's blood.
Little black submarines operator, please.
Now, like I said, Little Black Submarines was a microscopic stand that lived inside the blood of its user. Very similar to Bag's Groove and Lovers. At the time, this user was working as a chef, and he had poisoned some of the food they ate with his blood. Now, what they do, once actually in the blood, only one player ate it, so he had to pull like a Lover's, you know, sort of threatening situation, where he had them work in his kitchen. Because frankly, this dude was on par with the morality of Angela. Now, what the submarines actually do they are mini nuclear submarines. Meaning, if they enter your bloodstream, he can, at any point, just microwave your blood, basically. Now, I think you can tell whose stand this is. This was made before the campaign. I wanted to do a test stand, and I figured why not make myself a stand? And eventually, when I did edit into campaign, he ended up becoming a sort of Speedwagon Part 5 Polnareff type supporting character, where just a really easy way for me to, you know, push stuff into the plot for them. Oh yeah, it's also named after one of my favorite songs from my favorite band ever, Panic at Disco. Now, what its ability is I had recently rewatched Shin Godzilla, and so, combine that with the lyrics of the song, its ability was to inject people with a blood coagulant that would it would basically make the target's blood temperature sensitive, where if they had an ice cube flicked at them, part of their blood would turn to slush, and if they had a match flicked at them, their blood would thin out to the point of a heart attack. I'm sure by now some of you noticed that some of these are traced over JoJo poses. That is because I cannot pose characters for the life of me. Everything I draw is facing straight to the front otherwise. But this one was actually a part of the first double fight with the very next one that I'm going to show. But named after the song by Mitski, Washing Machine Heart. I had heard it in an edit earlier that day. Its ability was basically to make clouds that kind of acted as portals for, objects and people, although it could disclude certain people from going through the portals. That and the clouds still acted as clouds, so they could be, fanned away and blah. News of the World here is the first one named after an album, and it's also the first one with two abilities. Its first ability was the big fucking laser on its antenna head. Second ability was its chest could show you the location, or its abdomen had a hole in it that was just a worldwide map. It could show you the location of any person. So what would happen is Washing Machine Heart's user would make clouds where News of the World's user told them to make them, so that they could shoot the laser through the clouds.
Something bad is about to happen to me.
This stand is purely named after the song Dark Red by Steve Lacy, because of that line of something bad's about to happen, because this was the stand that I made specifically when they were getting on a plane to go somewhere. And you know what happens on planes in episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, this stand worked like High Priestess with the fact that it needed to be planted beforehand. But what it actually does, it ate electronics. So, the controls, the autopilot, any electronic part of the plane, and it was planted beforehand. So technically it's still alive. They didn't end up killing this one. But yeah, he's also traced over the shape of Spider-Verse Kingpin running, which I find very funny.
But I'm a Wonderless King!
Wonderless King is one of my favorite fights throughout the entire TTRPG, because it took place on a small island, and what his ability is if you're within the land that he's on, which technically I never set a limit for the size, so it could be country size, but for this one it was a small island in the middle of a lake, and whenever you were unobserved or looked away, you could be moved to anywhere on the island. So he had pre-set up a ton of traps on this island. Like, log traps, bear traps, a bunch of shit. And so they had to basically keep an eye on each other while also searching for this guy on this, shifting island. It was very cool.
I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride it where I like.
Bicycle Race is the stark opposite of Wonderless King, in that instead of being in one place, took place on a highway. You see, they had just stolen a car to get away from this thing. And this dude was comedically evil, mustache twiddling. And what I didn't draw in the actual image is that he had metal pants that connected to the bike. And left a trail behind him, kind of like Love Train. It didn't work like Love Train, but it looked like Love Train. And I shit you not, quote directly from Space Rat. I play with him on my gaming videos, And I quote, "Brake check that mustache twiddling prick." To which, the expensive car they stole was cut in half because its wheels act as basically a bladed version of Space Racer's laser from Invincible. Nothing can stop him. Literally nothing can stop him once he gets going. Of course, that doesn't matter when one of the players picked up a lamppost and batted him away. Also, I did specify that he didn't die either, so I could reuse him if I wanted. Big Iron is the stand of alternate universe Whole Horse. My universe is Whole Horse. And it's kind of the reverse of Emperor. Instead of having guided bullets, it has normal bullets, except the dude has garbage aim, and the bullets one-shot everything, including inanimate objects, such as, train seats and train cars. Yeah, this fight took place on a train. And with it being Whole Horse, obviously, he has to have a partner.
I'm burning for you.
Burning for You's user is actually the brother of Flaming Telepaths. They're both Blue Oyster Cult songs. They're both fire-related. And so his whole thing was he actually wasn't at all related to the main villain. He wasn't working for the main villain. He had nothing to do with the conflict other than the fact that his brother did. And he wanted revenge. Now, this was actually one of the first time a player was killed in this campaign, being cut in half by the big fucking sword he has. And what its ability is basically just AoE heat, where the closer you get to it, the hotter it is, and the sword is the hottest possible thing, like surface of the sun hot. He could cut through steel, he could cut through metal, and he eventually cut through a massive portion of the train they were on, causing the entire thing to derail, while also cutting one of my players in half, although he did have a backup character that he wanted to change to, so it ended up all working out. Now, the Land of Confusion is not actually a stand, it's more like a mobile devil's palm, a mobile giant devil's palm. That was just kind of where a section of the story took place, so there's kind of 3 beats to the story: the initial travel, then the little stop here to lay low when a USB drive they had collected needed to be decoded in a cave, in like a server rack in a cave. But this is like the first third. This is the second third of the story. Now, Heart-Shaped Box's user is probably the most unique I've ever come up with, for now anyway, and its user is the mold in the walls of a heart-shaped cabin. And that's also what the stand itself looks like those are vines. And what it does is, as long as the room is dark, it can control corpses. Now, if you shine a light on those corpses, the stand deactivates on them, so they, fall down, crumple, not to dust. They reactivate as soon as the light's not on them. That, and after getting out of this house, the entire cabin sort of just crunched in on itself and left. Godzilla is also a very interesting stand, at least stand user, because its stand user was a fish. It was a bass. And what the stand itself do is it would skirt above the water. It couldn't actually go into the water. It would skirt above the water where the fish was swimming, and it would shoot beams out from the water, including splashed water. So if you didn't catch the fish while splashing it, you were essentially, hell zone grenaded in the middle of it. Stories just begun. Aviators has a very interesting fun fact because it is the closest I ever came to breaking my rule of no nerdcore songs, where it's named after a nerdcore band, Aviators, who make a bunch of FNAF songs and Dark Souls songs. But I figured band was fine, and I okayed it with my players because I didn't allow them to do nerdcore either. So, but what its ability was, it was a shared stand like Tomb of the Boom, except it was 3 brothers who lived in the woods together, and each axe did a different thing with kinetic energy. So the longest one was able to make a wave of it after absorbing enough of it that would cut through stuff. The smallest one was a returning axe that could also swap positions with its user, kind of like Toto from JJK. And the largest one, or the middle one, let him basically tank any kind of attack for the others to use the kinetic energy of. Nope, no, we're saving him to the very end. Wait, what am I still doing over here? Do I really need to... Okay, I guess I have to Toto clap myself back to the other side of the screen. There we go. Okay. Spellbound was the stand of alternate universe Sandman. Now, what its ability was is, whenever he played it, he could control the nearest stand of somebody else, only one at a time. And this was really powerful, not only because of that, but because he ended up betraying them. You see, the main villain technically owned the land that was, as generic as it is, it was his tribe's land. And the main villain just owned it outright and offered to give it back in return for him betraying the group when he was initially a friendly force. Now, Virtual Insanity had 2 abilities. One, it was a tracking device because its user was actually the hard drive that they had gained and were decrypting, and once it decrypted, it gave away the location of where they were staying. Secondly, it has zero durability because it was meant to merge with and self-destruct and ended up merging with a player's stand to eventually explain change in moveset because they wanted to rework their character a bit. But it's mostly a plot stand, not really a fighting stand. It did also create like a trap barrier around the entire Land of Confusion. This was when the arc ended. Now, Cold as Ice, what it did was essentially it created a walking area of Blizzard of only about 80 feet in all directions. So an 80-foot circle of Blizzard, and it attacked them while they were in a hotel. Now, what the actual stand itself does is flash freezes anything it touches, like Dio. But it would move very slowly and would move towards the hottest things in the room, attempting to snuff them out. It was technically an automatic stand. And its user was the first of the main villain's sort of fanatics. They had entered the Egyptian gods portion of the campaign, basically. It was a blind, drunk old man controlling it, essentially planted there as a living bomb. Sailing to Philadelphia was another one on a plane, and basically, if the balloon bumped into anything at all, the plane would pressurize more and more. So they were basically playing a very, very difficult game of keep the balloon in the air, but they couldn't touch the balloon either. So, and yes, eventually their plane did just scrunch, but they all survived. So, and crashed into a hospital. Nicotine is also a very fun one. It made this gas in a hospital that made people addicted to whatever they were currently doing. It could have been what food they were eating, what action they were doing, There was one dude in the hospital that got obsessed with running. One of my players got obsessed with eating Jell-O cups, and another with pills. Addiction. Forced addiction.
This was no accident. This was a therapeutic chain of events.
Kamisado or Kamisoto, don't know how you pronounce it. What it does is it creates a duplicate of whatever building or vehicle it's in, and so they did it on a hospital, and so he was basically able to back rooms, no clip between the two versions, and so this was a double fight again with nicotine, and the gas was basically a hyper state with the light switch flicking, that example, and the gas was on one end, so they couldn't actually see the gas because it was on the other hospital, but it was still affecting everybody.
Sweet dreams are made of these.
Sweet Dreams was another one that could technically control other people's stands, although in this one it would have physical strings that connect to the person's head while they're asleep. And so it actually mind controlled my character's stand, Crazy Equals Genius, and then another person, after shooting them with a trank dart, was actually a very skilled stand user who used a gun, a trank gun.
Family Jewels.
Family Jewels is actually the stand of the main villain's father, and it activated as soon as they stepped foot in the mansion on the main villain's estate. And all it would do is it would survey and keep track of them. It also works sort of like a portal, kind of like a washing machine heart from earlier in the video, where he could grab people through it, he could put a gun through it. But this one didn't last long, as the main villain later killed his father. Now, before we get into the event of the main villain, and, all the lore shit, we need to do different lore shit, because I feel like I didn't explain this well enough in the actual campaign, so here's a bit of a lore dump. How people get stands in this universe are, they can be born with them, they can get them through something I call the empty hand phenomenon, where if they lose everything and give up on life, only to keep living they will gain a stand. But another way is through these pink trees and the sap they produce. Now, these trees sprout out of tragedy. And that means, places like Germany and Japan are kind of littered with them. For this case, the estate of the main villain is also just surrounded by them. Now, what tragic event happened there was the main villain's birth. Just him coming into existence sprouted these trees. Without further ado, the main villain, Zola Hackett.
Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender.
Now, when making Zola, I had 3 things in mind. I had his ability already chosen, I had the song for his stand already picked out, and I had one mission statement: trust fund sociopath. Basically, he started off as a comedically evil Elon Musk and ended somewhere of a mixture between Lex Luthor's money and the Joker. So morality-wise, he's definitely down there with most JoJo villains. As for his stand, I wanted him to have a really strong one-ability stand, akin to Dio and Toru, where it's just one really strong ability. Now, what his actual stand ability is, anything that's a threat to him temporarily stops existing when it goes to attack him. So that means people sort of just blink in and out of existence whenever say you throw a punch at him, you're going to pop out of existence and then come back when you've already finished the punch. And this is automatic. It only had one weakness, and that's that it doesn't stop him from hurting himself, which inevitably is what happened. There was a serum made from the sap of those trees, meant to give you any stand you want. But since he already had everything he wanted, especially considering he technically has the strongest stand in this JoJo's universe, and at least for now, I am akin to the opinion that there is no strongest stand, but in that universe for now, it's him. The only things that I think in canon could beat him are like Go Beyond and Tusk Act 4. But that's beside the point. He has everything he wanted, so what do you get for the man who has everything? Nothing. So he just kind of popped out of existence, like he turned to mist. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Do the stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think of the new, PNG tuber look. The little mascot guy. I like him. Not good at animating him, but I like him. Go check out some of my other newer stuff down in the description. Cue the outro.